Taryn are also present. The board values public participation and engagement in the meetings of the board. Board meetings will continue to be live streamed on the Lake Washington School District website and are available for viewing following the conclusion of the board meeting as well. The public are always welcome to email any individual board member at boardmembers@lwsd.org. We'll begin the evening with our land acknowledgement. The Board of Directors of Lake Washington School District acknowledges that our district is on the indigenous land of the Coast Salish peoples, who have reserved treaty rights on this land, including the Duwamish and the Snoqualmie tribe. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived here since time immemorial. We commit to continue collaborating with our Native community to teach the indigenous history of this land and these local tribes to all children of the district. We also commit to provide the best possible education for all children of Native descent who attend our schools. I will now entertain a motion to approve the November 20th, 2023 agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Bleasner and seconded by Director LaLiberty to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Tonight, we have a very special recognition that we would like to have completed. We're going to start with Dr. Holman, and we are recognizing the service of one of our esteemed directors, Director Siri Bleasner. Dr. Holman?
November 2011. That's when Siri Bleasner got elected to serve on the school board. Siri's been a longtime resident of Redmond. Her children have gone through school here. She's volunteered in this community. She volunteered for things such as chess club, Lego League robotics, and math club. Somehow ended up at my parents' house with the, if I remember, the Lego club, and seeing the events that occur on a farm. But Siri is much more than that. She served in the midst of COVID as a public health official. For a time, worked at HopeLink and served her community in that capacity. She's a mom, and to this day, we still hear stories of that. She's also a dog mom to Yoda, if I remember your dog's name correctly, and Siri and her husband can be seen walking Yoda in the community. What I've learned over the years is that Siri is dedicated to quality governance, a commitment that continuing to elevate the work of the board truly does elevate the work and the outcomes for kids. Siri's committed to community service, and that's a broad commitment that Siri has made. You can find Siri at events all across our great school district, connecting with people, engaging with people. Her service in supporting elections, serving as a campaign manager, knocking on doors for others, but also herself. But it's also her commitment to well-articulated systems. I can tell you, in knowing Siri for 10 plus years, that her constant view and focus on ensuring that the system continued to improve, because she knew there would come a day where her last board meeting would be in play and that the system needed to survive beyond her. And so Siri consistently looked at the systems we were using to serve kids, to shift the district's programs and practices to make sure that it lived beyond the people that were leading them. And so for that, I truly do appreciate. And this evening in our study session, my next comment about Siri came to light very well. I wrote down that Siri's committed to bilingual education. And in our study session, she pointed out that the district's shift to require world language before the state required it as a graduation requirement wasn't just because the colleges wanted it. It's because it actually is really good for kids to be bilingual. And I've heard Siri talk extensively about, while yes, the language component is beneficial, but it is also a method of learning about and appreciating culture. And to that end, I'm proud that we have a dual language program that is now articulating up into the middle school. It's at Einstein Elementary, and Redmond Middle School just started the beginnings of that program. The concept that students can be assessed and receive high school credit for the language that they come with is something that we focused on as a board and district, and seeing that increase over time. You appreciate data, Siri. Your ongoing push for a quality data dashboard, but also quality reporting is something that is really a legacy that you and others that have stepped off the board leave behind. Because I can tell you the reporting that you received at your first board meeting is nothing compared to what you're receiving at your last board meeting. And I do want to go back to that board meeting. January 9th, 2012, while you were elected in November 2011, your first board meeting was in January. You were sworn in alongside colleagues, others that had previously served, Jackie Pendergrass, Chris Carlson. Doug Eglinton and Nancy Bernard were also serving on the board at that time. The host school that evening was Audubon Elementary, and Karen Dickens, the principal, came and presented. Recognition that evening at board meeting was School Board Appreciation Month. Kevin Teeley and Stephen Bryant came and presented on the National Board Certified Teachers, and Greg Lobdahl, probably a name you might remember from the Center for Educational Effectiveness, came and presented Redmond Elementary, Samantha Smith Elementary, and Renaissance School of Arts and Reasoning for their School of Distinction Awards. That evening, on consent agenda, you approved change orders for Helen Keller Elementary modernization, Carl Sandburg modernization, the addition at Redmond High School, and change order number 43 for the Lake Washington High School modernization. I don't know if that's a record, but that certainly seems like a lot. On the non-consent agenda that night, Camden Park requested a transfer of territory, and so the board heard that petition and took action, and you received your first monitoring report, which at that time was End Results Number 1, the mission of the Lake Washington School District. So all of that to say, you have served your community well, but more than that, you've served the students of Lake Washington School District well. Thank you for your committed service all of these years.
Thank you, Dr. Holman. And Director LaLiberty would like to also give some comments this evening.
Since Dr. Holman covered a lot, I will be brief. Siri, you, as one of the longer-serving board members, have taught many of us how to be board members, including myself. And I appreciate that immensely. Your focus on governance, policy, systematic, student-focused, and long-term thinking has been immense in moving this board to professionalizing this board, and it will have long-term lasting impacts well beyond your term. I also want to highlight some of the your achievements, I will call them, during our achievements, but really they were your achievements during your term. We have student representatives on the board because you kept bringing it up over and over and over and over again. And I appreciate that. It's made me a better board member having our students here. And it would not have happened eventually, but certainly would not have happened any sooner if it were not for you. We have more dual language programs because of your advocacy. Our board is connected with other boards, with both statewide and locally, because of your work and your advocacy and your focus on that. We are active in Olympia in part because of your work. And I've really appreciated the opportunity to serve with you on the board, and I will miss having you on the board. So thank you, Sari.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to say that we are going to be holding a recognition ceremony in honor of Director Bleasner and Director Carlson. I can't believe it. It's next week on November 29th here at the Resource Center as well to recognize all of the work that you've done. So thank you once again. Sorry, oh, my papers got messed up. Okay, so the next item on our agenda this evening is going to be public comment. One second while I find my... The Board of Directors of Lake Washington School District welcomes the public to the business meetings of the board and encourages our community to engage with us. The board dedicates a total of 30 minutes to hear from the public during the public comment period of the meeting. Participants should not expect a response from the board at the end of their comments, as we dedicate this time to listening to your voice and would like to get as many members of the public an opportunity to speak as the time allows. The board does not discuss personnel matters at board meetings. And I would also like to remind everybody here that the board would like to encourage civil discourse as a model for our students as they learn about operating within a democratic society. So we would like to encourage everyone to be civil in their engagement with each other so that we can continue to listen to everyone's voice that wants to participate. If the public would like to provide information to the board, please feel free to reach out via email or phone. If you have a written copy of your public comments, you can also send those along to the board as well, especially if we do not get to everybody that is signed up this evening. For anybody that's new to public comment, we do have a stoplight over here. We limit individual public comment to 3 minutes. The green light, it'll be green at the beginning, it'll turn to yellow when you have 1 minute left, and it will turn red at 3 minutes. We ask that you wrap up your comments at 3 minutes so that we can get as many people up for public comment as possible. So the first person that we have signed up for public comment this evening is Orit Ruben Mendelson.
It's not working. Oh, it is. Board members, thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. My name is Orit. I relocated from Israel in 2016. I'm a mother of 4, all of whom attend LWSD. I work for Amazon. Being a granddaughter of Holocaust survivors and having lived in Israel most of my life, the only exposure I've had to anti-Semitism was through stories and history classes. After moving to Redmond, I was happy to learn about high standards of diversity, equity, and inclusion here, about the zero-tolerance policy towards disrespectful behavior. Kids are forbidden from using certain offensive words towards minorities, such as African Americans and LGBTQ. If they dare using such words, the consequences are harsh, especially in high schools where they would get reprimanded or even suspended. That led me to believe that the same principles would apply to any other disrespectful comments, let alone hate expressions. Unfortunately, this positive view of Redmond shattered for me on October 7th, when the largest, most horrific massacre of Jews since the Holocaust took place. Atrocities you can only see in horror movies. After that, I was naive believing that anti-Semitism would be reduced. I'm sad to say, not only it was not reduced, it actually gained strength and became a monster. 100 anti-Semitic events were reported in the past month in LWSD. A high school student fell asleep and woke up with an Auschwitz number on her arm. My son was aggressively yelled at after confirming he's Jewish. Kids coining new phrases like Holocaust 2.0, chanting, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," meaning Israel should be destroyed, killing all the Jews living there. I'm asking you, where are we? When are we? Unfortunately, when the hate is directed to Jews, the zero tolerance policy doesn't apply. I was shocked and disappointed to see that the ignorance and indifference didn't skip the school leaders and teachers. It first occurred to me when benign, generic emails were sent presenting this politically correct, twisted reality as if the violence is mutual and equivalent, following a history teacher purposely distorting the truth of events in class. Even though this was a terror attack, pure and simple, a terror is inexcusable. However, I'm not here to convince you who's right or wrong. President Biden is actually doing a pretty good job at that. I'm just here to tell you that educators' words matter. Ignorance, indifference, and passive attitude matter. There's a fine line between freedom of speech and pure incitement. Incitement that encourages verbal and physical violence. Incitement that has destructive impact on our children. Not only the Jewish children, but also those children who are encouraged to be consumed with hate. Those children will end up frustrated and angry. Is that what we want? The bottom line is simple. When you tolerate anti-Semitism,
If you could wrap
tolerate
up your
pure
comments.
hate.
Thank you.
So the next time you're appalled by anyone saying anything derogatory about African Americans or any other minority, as you very well should be, just duplicate that same reaction to when you hear anti-Semitic comments from students, let alone teachers. And please, just apply the same exact zero tolerance policy. We're not asking for anything more.
Thank you. Thank you. And although I do appreciate the showing of support for community members, if we can actually not applaud so that we can move on to the next comment so we can get as many in as possible, that'd be great. Our next person is Sarah Duke.
Good evening. I'm a parent of a daughter in 4th grade at Audubon Elementary. My maternal grandmother's parents, who were Russian Orthodox Jews, immigrated to New York City in 1920, escaping pogroms that were committed during the Russian Civil War. My family today is multiracial, multicultural, and multi-ethnic. My daughter was born a Muslim and has a Muslim name. I've raised my child as a global citizen who views and respects all others as her equal and treats them with respect and fairness. However, beginning in 2nd grade just 2 years ago, she learned firsthand of how others can and do exclude and discriminate. She was told by an Israeli classmate that she could not attend their birthday party unless she learned to read 10 pages of the Torah in Hebrew. This was the condition to her to meet in order to get a birthday invitation. Since October 7th, my daughter has only experienced ostracism and exclusion by Israeli classmates and their friends, who she formed a book club team with for participating in the extracurricular Battle of the Books activity sponsored by Lake Washington School District and KCLS. Additionally, Israeli classmates have asked her at recess whose side she was on, Israel or Palestine. Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim Americans and their allies have been the target for hundreds of incidents across the country aimed at criminalizing dissent, censoring, and inciting anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, and anti-Muslim harassment, doxing, and vigilantism. For example, student organizations across U.S. high schools and college campuses which call for a ceasefire and an end to ethnic cleansing and genocide in Gaza are being formally censored with bans, including bans on wearing traditional Palestinian clothing. They are receiving informal letters threatening punishment, and they have faced threats of violence and intimidation by pro-Israel groups. Further, anti-Semitism has been weaponized to silence and discredit advocates of Palestinian human rights. Numerous Israeli parents spoke before this board 2 weeks ago and on more than several occasions conflated the phrases Free Palestine and Free Gaza and criticism of Zionism and the Israeli government with anti-Semitism. In answering their suggestions for education on this topic, an inquiry on what are anti-Semitic statements was conducted, and an article titled 10 Tough Questions on Anti-Semitism Explained and posted to the American Jewish Committee's website was consulted. The American Jewish Committee's stated mission is to, and I quote, stand up for the Jewish people, the state of Israel, and the democratic values that unite us all. In this article, the answer to the question, are anti-Zionism and criticisms of Israel considered forms of anti-Semitism? They answer that advocating for a two-state solution that includes a Palestinian nation state, criticizing policies of the Israeli government, and speaking up in support of Palestinian rights is not anti-Zionist, nor is it anti-Semitic. With respect to this answer given by pro-Israel Jewish advocacy organization, the statements Free Palestine and Free Gaza, and even Intifada, which is the Arabic word for uprising,
If you
are
could wrap
statements
up
of
your comments.
solidarity in support of Palestinians having the basic human right to self-determination and their own nation state. The Lake Washington School District has a strong policy on the prohibition of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. However, as is noted in the civility policy, uncivil conduct does not include the expression of controversial or differing viewpoints that may be offensive to some persons. I believe this needs to be included in the definitions of harassment, intimidation, and bullying so as to mitigate false allegations and slander, which if not investigated in a fair, unbiased, and transparent manner, can and has resulted in defamation and the infringement of students and Lake Washington School
Thank you.
District
Can you
community
please
members'
wrap up?
civil rights.
Thank you. The next person that we have signed up for public comment this evening is Rupesh Manda.
Hello, board members. My name is Rupesh Manda. I'm here as a parent and to represent Alcott PTSA 2.8.3. I'm here to talk about building heating issues at Alcott Elementary. On the 16th of November 2023, just last week, many parents at Alcott Elementary School received an email with the following content. Our classrooms are extremely cold this morning. Please be sure to send your child with a warm coat as well as a hat or gloves if they would like to wear them. On the 17th of November, the second grade classrooms were also extremely cold. Multiple small space heaters are being used in classrooms to try to raise the temperature. These heaters are not necessarily safe for students and may present a fire hazard. We know that the board has seen a presentation on aging facilities in LWSD. We worry that the board may or may not understand what our students actually experience in an aging facility. For example, no separate gym or commons actually means that children are dashing through pouring rain with a paper tray of food that is rapidly becoming soggy. Current code GAP's energy HVAC actually means that children are wearing their recess clothes indoors all day because it is extremely cold. A parent posted on Facebook recently how her child was wrapped in blankets taken from home. The district report does not explain that this is happening multiple times a week and will keep happening all winter long and the next winter and then for even more winters after that. So, what are we asking? We are asking the district and the board, how are you going to provide a safe and healthy environment for our kids? We are inviting the district and the board, please come talk to us. Please come tour the school on a very cold day when the heat is not working. We need you to understand what aging facilities actually mean for the safety of our children. We want to help the campaign to pass the next school bond. We want to understand what is planned for our school. But most importantly, find a way to heat Alcott. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person we have signed up is Ran Baror.
Hello. I'm a parent to a high school student at Lake Washington High School. I wanted to share with you something that has happened to one of the schools. This is an incident that happened last week in one of the local high schools. It could have happened in more schools. A teacher decided to suddenly give a lecture on the situation in Gaza with violent videos. He spoke things like October 7th was not a terror attack. He said it is okay to murder civilians. It was filled with hatred, and it was filled with fake facts. This is against clear Lake Washington School District rules. It is not, and it was not in the curriculum. It is not allowed. Let me repeat. This was a misuse of the teacher's authority to stand in class and against the LWSD rules. Teachers should not use their authority, should not use the class to promote their own agenda. Now let's think about for a second about the kids in the class. Think about the minority, those Jewish kids in the class, how they feel. Are they afraid to speak up when the teacher says those things? Think about those kids as they're seeing their classmates hear those horrible things. How they're being brainwashed with these anti-Semitic speeches. Think about our children as they step outside the class to see their classmates in the hall, in the school, after the class is over. Think about all the other children who are brainwashed. Who will teach these students what happened in the truth? Certainly not that teacher. This should not happen, does not have any room in our schools. Our children are not feeling safe at schools, at classes, in the breaks, on the bus. We as parents are concerned. We are afraid for the safety. Schools are not safe anymore. Schools should be safe for everyone, including the minorities. Can you imagine if this happened to any other minority? Blacks, Muslims, Asians? Something very wrong happened in one of the schools. Might have happened in other schools in this district. We must put a stop to this immediately. We expect clear and immediate actions against the teacher and to inform all the parents and other teachers of the situation. I'll simply end with that. All children, regardless of their background, should feel safe at the school. That's not the case anymore in the LWSD system. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person that we have signed up, is Allah Hassan.
Can you hear me? First, I appreciate the opening statement of acknowledging the indigenous people and their land. This resonates well with me. We are an indigenous native Palestinian family. 2 of my kids attend Lake Washington School District. One of them is a 9th grader. Our family comes from Jaffa, Palestine, one of the oldest port cities in the world. My grandparents were violently expelled in 1948 by terrorist organizations called Irgun and Haganah. My great-uncle refused to leave and he was executed. Part of my family also comes from Nablus, where our family has been under occupation since 1967. We are a family of 3 generations of displaced refugees. Part of our family ended up in Gaza. Part of the 1948 expulsion ended up with 2 great aunts in Gaza. Gaza is not just the open-air prison, as people call it. It's really a concentration camp. It's currently an extermination camp. Unfortunately, 3 weeks ago, we lost 15 family members. They were bombed in their apartment building. The ambulance was bombed that was carrying some injured. The rest of my family currently is slowly dying of starvation, dehydration, and disease. Our suffering did not start this month or last month. This is a 75-year-old problem and land grab issue. My people have been paying and have been punished with loss of their land, freedom, and well-being. In the West Bank, my cousins, who are children, have been arrested, tortured, and beaten. My uncle was put in a cage at a checkpoint for hours on his way to visit his dying daughter in the hospital. Then he was instructed to go back. He was not by her side when she passed away. My kids are aware of these facts. They're also aware of all the officials here in this country calling for the killings of all Palestinians with no accountability. They were aware of other officials in other countries calling us human animals. I want to ask you a question. When a racist person hears the word Black Lives Matter, what do they hear? They hear only Black Lives Matter. When people called for the fall of apartheid in South Africa, what happened to the whites? Nothing. It's just the blacks have equal rights now as the whites. This is when people like me say free Palestine from the river to the sea. They're calling for equality, for the removal of checkpoints, for the removal of apartheid, for equal treatment for all. Hate incidents are not far from us. You're all aware of the Palestinian child that was stabbed to death with his mother in Chicago. A Palestinian student was driven over at Stanford University. The police didn't do much. A local Pakistani family doctor was stabbed to death 2 weeks ago. One of our friends' kids was spit on here in Redmond. Our friend's son was hit on the head here in Kirkland. Nothing happened by the police. We are visibly Middle Eastern and Muslim.
If you could wrap up your comment.
Sure. I'm scared for the safety of my children and the safety of other Middle Eastern and Muslim brown kids. My ask is to have a discussion with teachers regarding the sensitivity of this topic and to encourage teachers to reflect on their own personal biases. Teachers' words and personal perspectives, intentionally or unintentionally integrated into their teaching, have incredible impacts on students. Let's raise empathetic leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person signed up for public comment is Aya Abdelbaki. I apologize if I butchered that.
Hi, thank you so much for this. My theme today is about privilege, and me standing here in front of all of you is a privilege. I am an Arab, Egyptian, Muslim, American woman. I am a proud mom of two. I'm a proud working mom of two. The amount of discrimination that I've seen in my personal life and in my work life cannot be counted. However, the fact that people in this room might not face that same discrimination is a privilege, and I'm happy that people did not have to face that as well. I will skip over the amount of hate that my family and I have seen throughout the days. The amount that we were stopped and shouted at the street to go back to where you came from, or being a terrorist, or the stereotypes about how can you be an engineer and a Muslim Arab at the same time. I will focus on why I'm here. I'm going to focus on the fact that I'm a Lake Washington School District parent. And with Islamophobia on the rise, and there wasn't a lot of support, I decided to use my own privilege and pull my kids out and put them in private school. It is due to the amount of hate, incidents, bullying, and harassment Muslim kids, Arab kids, kids with Arab names were facing in their day-to-day life was phenomenal. I can't just, I can't wrap my head around it, honestly. And guess what? Putting your kids in a bubble and putting them in the safest environment didn't help. My youngest child is constantly, their school is on high alert due to the amount of threats that they get. The school was vandalized with racist graffiti on the walls. And the school gets in so many lockdowns due to random calls on hate and threats and bomb threats. My oldest was racially discriminated against by her own teacher. She was standing presenting an English literature presentation where her own teacher stood her in the middle of all her peers to ask her what did she think of the racist attacks and the terrorist attacks of September 11th. A 12-year-old asked to defend her religion and beliefs in front of her peers. And when she told him this is not relevant to English literature, her peers, her non-Muslim peers, said that this is not relevant to this. He stood there and told her, you're not going to sit down until you respond to this. After the October events, another teacher decided to bring up the events from a single biased point of view. And when my kid decided to talk about both sides and that we have to show support for all students, she was shut down, she was censored, and she was told that it's complicated when it comes to Palestinian rights and human rights. I'm here to talk about how we should use our own privilege, how this forum and Lake Washington School District representatives should support all students. It doesn't have to be for certain races, religion, or background. There is bias, there is discrimination, and we should do better. That's it.
Thank you. Our next comment is from Nada Hasbini. Nada? Not virtual, right? Okay. And we'll move on. 10. Hagar Levi.
Hi, I'm sorry, but I don't think I'm in the mental state right now to take any speeches. Everything that my community members have already said was said. All I'm going to say is I was born in Jaffa as well. And as community, we expect our school district to defend our kids, to fight anti-Semitism, and to provide a protocol that will help encounter the anti-Semitism our children have to face. Thank you.
Thank you. Afnan Dalasha. I think I'm saying that very wrong. Nope. Okay. Rifat Fahim.
Assalamu alaikum to you all. This is the Muslim greeting, which means peace. Can you hear me? Yeah. Is that better?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. This is the Muslim greeting, which means peace be upon you all. Thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. I'm speaking today as the mother of a Lake Washington School District student who wears the hijab. It is not easy to stand out from the crowd, especially when you're young. We should all feel confident expressing ourselves in any way, whether for religious or cultural reasons or otherwise. Whether wearing a hijab or a Star of David or a cross, it should not come with any feeling of bias or risk. It is a privilege to reside in the United States and experience such a wonderful community with diverse backgrounds and experiences, to feel included, find our place, and thrive in it all. It is this diversity that makes our communities vibrant and unique. The Council of Europe defines hate speech as any form of expression, spreading or promoting racial hatred, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or other forms of discrimination or hatred based on intolerance. This statement defines our communities. We cannot afford to be indifferent and must work together to create a culture of respect, inclusion, and solidarity among all people, regardless of religion, race, or background. According to the OE14 equity policy, Lake Washington School District is required to provide curriculum and instruction that is culturally responsive, inclusive, and standards-based. Ensure staff receive annual training focused on topics such as racial equity, anti-bias, cultural competency, and social emotional well-being in order to create learning and working environments that are safe and inclusive, and develop and maintain a culturally responsive system to analyze and allocate resources. These statements provided by the district mean that no child should feel unwelcome or unsafe at school due to students, teachers, or the curriculums. We urge and ask Lake Washington School District leadership, educators, and staff to please be mindful of this so our kids do not face backlash, Islamophobia, or racism. It is not fair for children to bear this burden alone on the playground or in a class setting, and hate speech and intolerance are not okay in any form. Please construct a plan to make sure everyone feels accepted and valued at school and in the workplace. Whether we are part of the district or simply a part of this diverse community, we should all feel safe and respected, even through times of conflict. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have one individual signed up for virtual public comment this evening. Shaima?
Sorry, if I may, I would like to use the remaining minutes I have for someone else to talk, please.
We can come back after we've done this. one,
Perfect.
since we're
Thank you
starting
so
it.
much for considering. Thank you.
Shaima?
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Shaima, you can go ahead and...
Oh, I can start now?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks a lot for having me. So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Assalamu alaikum is Islamic greeting that literally means peace be upon you. Peace is the thing that we're striving for all of us and especially for our kids. As a data scientist, I understand the power of numbers to tell a story. So let me share with you some that deeply concerns me. As of November 3, according to the Ministry of Health, 9,000 people are killed in Gaza, of which 2,000 are women and 3,700 are kids, representing 67% of all the casualties. Many thousands others are injured. It means 420 children are killed every day. Closer to home, the Council on American-Islamic Relations said that it received 774 requests for help and reports of bias incidents from Muslims across the U.S. From October 7 to October 24, 182% jump from any given 16-day stretch last year. A 6-year-old Muslim boy from Chicago was stabbed to death, and his mother is deeply injured. I've heard heart-wrenching stories of children in our very own Lake Washington School District facing bullying due to their faith. These aren't just numbers or distant stories, they are echoes of a troubling trend. I'm sure there are many more untold stories, as what gets reported is usually a fraction of the real number. In a survey of 108 Muslim students aged 11 to 18 from August 2018 to August 2021, called Examining Islamophobia in California Schools, it was found that 55% of students surveyed said they feel unsafe, unwelcome, or uncomfortable at school because of their religious background. And girls wearing a hijab like me reported being particular targets of bullies, including their own teachers on occasion. Some girls reported that teachers had referred to them as terrorists and told them you don't belong here. Imagine over half of Muslim students feeling unsafe in their educational environment. We must ask ourselves, what kind of learning environment are we fostering when young minds are burdened with fear? 55%. Can you imagine what this number would be now after all the media bias against Muslims? As we are witnessing a modern-day genocide, we as a Muslim community are also asked to suffer in silence, to condemn only, to always apologize for actions we didn't even do. This is not the world I want for my kid who is an elementary student in Lake Washington School District. And this is not the school experience I want him to have. It's already sad that once the situation in Gaza started bubbling up, I had to sit with my kid and have a talk about potential harassment and how he should respond. Anti-discrimination, anti-racism, and anti-hate speech are core values of Lake Washington School District, and I'm here asking the school district to have an action plan with Muslim kids in mind, how they can make the school district more welcoming and more safe for them. How can teachers be more educated and not biased in any way? For educators to understand in those unprecedented times that Muslim kids could be hurting, could be getting bullied and struggling, and kids with Palestinian ethnicities could be losing whole families back home. We don't even want 1% of the students to feel unwelcome. Let us come together to create a community where peace is not just a greeting, but a lived reality for every child. Let's work towards a world where every student, regardless of their background, feels welcomed, safe, and valued. Thank you for your attention and for your commitment to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Shama.
And then we had one last comment. Hagar Levi, did you want to? Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I didn't prepare anything. My name is Loran Bloom. I'm a mother of fourth grader in Audubon. And yeah.
Could you speak up into the mic? Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure. Dear members, I stand before you today to address a concerning incident that has deeply impacted our school community. During a conversation among fourth grader students, actually the daughter of someone that just talked, a comment was made about the political situation between Israel and Gaza. The exact comment was, do you know what Israeli do to children in Gaza? Do you know that they are killing babies in Gaza? This incident is particularly, sorry, I'm stressed, distressing as I resonate deeply with the Jewish community, leaving us feeling valuable and concerned. The complexity and sensitivity of discussions surrounding this topic cannot be overstated. The Jewish community has endured immense tragedy, including loss of lives and horrific acts of violence. This experience highlighted emotional intensity and difficulty of conversation on this matter, especially for us. Engaging conversation about complex global issues is challenging, especially for young students who may lack the comprehensive understanding needs to navigate such sensitive topics. I commend our teachers and faculty for their dedication and trust their ability to handle this situation thoughtfully. Yet it is crucial that we emphasize the necessity of creating an environment where empathy, compassion, and inclusion guide our interactions, particularly when discussing emotionally charged subject. Given the context and the profound impact this topic has on the Jewish community, I stress the importance of addressing this matter with gravity. Our priority remains the creation of a safe, inclusive, and supportive environment for all students where each individual feels respected and understood. I'm fully committed to supporting our school and ensuring a well-being and education of all students. Thank you for your steadfast commitment to our school community.
Thank you. And that is going to conclude our public comment time for our board meeting this evening. We did have a few written public comments submitted for the board. I encourage all the board members to go ahead and read those public comments. And at this time, we will recess for 2 minutes so that we can give our audience a chance to go ahead and exit the board meeting if they so wish. Thank you. Board meeting. The next item on our agenda is approval of the November 20th, 2023 consent agenda. I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Seconded.
It has been moved by Director LaLiberty and seconded by Director Guthrie. Dr. Holman, will you poll the board?
Director Guthrie?
Yes.
Director Bleasner?
Yes.
Director Stewart?
Yes.
President LaLiberty? Vice President LaLiberty?
Yes.
And President Choi?
Yes, motion carries. Dr. Holman, will you please summarize the donations?
Absolutely. So tonight in the board's packet, you have over $60,000 worth of donations from three various sources. First, our Lake Washington Schools Foundation. Second, our PTSA, both which seem to be on our agenda almost every week with donations. But also this week we have private sources that donate anonymously with over $10,000. And so just want to express our gratitude and appreciation for these donations because they do truly help us provide unique, innovative opportunities and programs for our students.
Thank you, Dr. Holman. The next item on our agenda this evening is a program update.
Yes, and so tonight the board will be monitoring OE11, our instructional program, and so working with Associate Superintendent Dr. Jen Rose around what would be an element of our instructional program to provide an update to the board, knowing that if we gave a program update of the entire instructional program, that would be a long evening. And so here this evening we have Director of Curriculum, Director of Teaching and Learning, K-5 and Literacy, Kelly Pease here to provide the board with an update around our elementary literacy adoption process. It's one element of our instructional services program, but it is such an important aspect. And so I'm going to invite the team up to the podium to provide the board with the update around the instructional services program.
Okay, sorry. So I'm here today to talk to you about, I'm trying to gather myself after our public comment and just center us on the literacy adoption process. And so I come before you today letting you know that we have intentionally moved the literacy adoption out a year. So what you'll see is starting next school year, we're doing the process for social studies adoption this year, and we want to make sure that teachers have a year to implement and understand the social studies curricula before we go into literacy adoption. So we're pushing that out one more year, which may have ripple effects for subsequent adoptions. The rationale behind doing that is that, as I said, the back-to-back adoptions, as well as the state is adjusting their English language arts standards, which will be brought forth in 25-26. And we felt that it was important that as we're bringing on any new adoption, that we are looking to align with our state and federal standards. So it also provides us with an opportunity to continue to provide professional learning for our K-2 teachers in teaching structured literacy. And when I say structured literacy, I'm speaking of the structured literacy, the science of reading, and really talking about foundational literacy skills for all K-2 teachers. And I'll talk to that a little bit more as we go on today. So we're calling it the Reading Advisory because and it's quite a process for the 45 plus teachers and administrators that have been on it and joined us in the fall of 2021, thinking that we were going to move into adoption a year earlier than we currently are now. And so we shared with them the rationale behind moving it out an additional year, because we know that effective literacy practices are it's the way we're going to get all students reading by the end of third grade. And to do that, to train and provide professional learning for multiple hundreds of K-2 teachers to learn how to teach structured literacy based on the science of reading takes time. So by the fall of 25-26, we will have all K-2 teachers with the skills and strategies to teach foundational lit to every student as part of core instruction. And as we are looking at our work this year, we are really focusing on around capacity building of what students who receive supports in other programs, like our multilingual students. So we're providing the advisory with some learning on how do we get at what multilingual students need as part of core instruction, and what does that look like, and how do you use the multilingual annual test data to help tell us what our students need. We also are looking at our students who participate in the WA-AIM, which are some students who have complex learning needs, and really digging in with this advisory group on what is WA-AIM and how do we build out instruction for students, for all students as part of core instruction and our inclusionary work. Next year, we'll continue with capacity building, aligning to the state standards, as well as looking at our curricular options. When I say we're moving the adoption out of a year, you might be thinking, oh, well, we have Wonders, right? And there's some information about Wonders that I think it's important for everyone to know. The Wonders 2014, the curriculum that we have in place in Lake Washington School District, is based on the foundational literacy skills. And so we're working directly with teachers to align best practice and research to where do you find that in Wonders and how do you deliver that instruction to your students in small group instruction. All of the chatter in social media and in the news is around the Wonders 2016 edition, which moved away from structured literacy to a more whole language approach or guided reading approach. So we're staying the course with Wonders, really providing lots of scaffolds for teachers who are doing an amazing job with teaching our students those foundational lit skills. So we'll pick up curriculum that we're looking to pilot and bring that to the group based on, we've developed some rubrics based on best practice on this structured reading, foundational literacy, that will help us determine a curriculum to choose. What we want to really have the board understand and community understand is that it's not the curriculum that teaches reading, it's the teachers equipped with the skills and strategies to teach reading. The curriculum is a tool you use to lean into that provides you with the resources and support for meeting the needs of all students. And so our hope for is pilot in fall 25-26. As I sit here, I remember way back in the time machine, you brought me back in that time machine when you were talking about Sari, was we had Vision 2020, and it seemed like it was so far away. So when we're talking about 2025, 26, it's hard to believe that that's just a couple years out now. And then full implementation of the curricular tool aligned to standards. We'll also be doing some work across content areas, because we know that teaching children to learn in kindergarten through second grade and then somewhat into third grade for those who aren't quite there yet is really important. And so we will be looking at how can we integrate science, social studies, and writing so they aren't seen as disparate subjects, but they can be taught alongside once our students learn the structured literacy and how to read explicitly. So I want us to lean into the multi-tiered systems of support as a construct for the work we're doing. This includes working with building principals, MTSS coaches, safety net teachers, special ed teachers, multilingual teachers, and classroom teachers on building systems to support and scaffold all learners. We're really a data-based organization, and we look at what does the data tell us about our program, what does the data tell us about how our students are doing, so that we're meeting the instruction of the students in the just right area. I also, as we think about inclusionary practices, we're working on the standards and looking at how can students show what they know in different ways, because we are all on a journey of rigorous learning, and so how do we know, and how we work with teachers to know and understand students can show how they know things in different ways that are all legitimately on track for being at benchmark. So as I'm just going to highlight, I'm not going to read through this list of things, but all of our learning that we've done with district leadership, with teachers, we had the opportunity at the start of this school year to have all of the elementary teachers watch the Right to Read film, which is really a call to action on all students has reading as a civil right. And they followed that learning with some listening circles about what they felt that what spoke to them, and then what did they need to be supported. What we hear is our K-2 teachers, as of what we're hearing for feedback right now, our K-2 teachers feel like they're getting what they need, and we're building out resources for 3rd through 5th grade teachers because they also are teachers of reading, and so where are the resources and the supports? So we just provided principals with some resources on Tuesday to really think about how do 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers facilitate small group instruction, and what are those resources that they can use to do so. We're also we're doing a very 16-hour structured literacy course with the K-2 teachers. We're looking for what is that's available for 3rd through 5th grade teachers that gives them that just right amount of work around morphology and understanding the roots of words and so on. So we'll continue to onboard new teachers each year with structured literacy. That will be part of their kind of, to be a teacher in Lake Washington, all K-2 teachers must have structured literacy, professional learning, and supports in their classrooms. And then we also are onboarding our MTSS coaches so that they can help facilitate effective pedagogy and support the resources for gen ed teachers. And then we also offer ongoing courses in Cornerstone. We're partnering with OSPI around Glean Professional Learning, which is a whole series this year on dyslexia and other reading difficulties. So it's a multi-pronged approach to have all the adults in the education environment getting all kids reading by the end of 3rd grade. And more professional learning. We're a little heavy on the professional learning piece because we know if teachers know and understand how to do structured literacy well, our kids will learn and everyone will be just glorious readers by the time they're done, hopefully 2nd grade, but we'll give them a little extra into 3rd grade and ensure that we're pushing kids through Lake Washington on the Every Child a Reader train. So, and this again, the timeline for the adoption and what we're doing each year. And then that's all I have for you tonight. Jen, did you want to have anything to add?
I want to highlight what Kelly was saying and just recognize her team for having that multi-pronged approach and really thinking about the instructional practices are key. And while we have an older resource, it is still research aligned, and the work that Kelly's been doing with all teachers and all administrators to make sure that we're using that resource most effectively has been pretty terrific. So just want to recognize that.
Are there any comments or questions from the board or students? Okay. Oh, Director Guthrie.
Yes, just wanted to say, as the board liaison to this committee, yeah, it's been tremendous, the work that's been done. The teachers were really supportive of the delaying that timeline, and really, like Kelly said, it's to give some time to really it gives more time to really help all teachers understand exactly what's needed to really turn kids into readers. As the parent of a 3rd grader who is a struggling reader, I love that emphasis too on grades 3 through 5. There are state laws around K through 2, and it's frankly terrifying to cross that bridge and see that my child legally does not have the same kinds of supports that she did just last year. So I'm really glad to be in a district where there's recognition that even if it's not legally required, this is how we need to do right by kids. Yeah. Because it's really, it really feeds into all that we do. When we look at that mission of the Lake Washington School District, if we can't get our kids reading, the rest of it's going to be so much harder. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Kelly, for all the work that you've done, that your team is doing.
To that end, and Kelly mentioned this before, but a literacy adoption is not separate from our work around equity or inclusive practices. And I want to highlight that the professional learning that Kelly and her team have done has, during our LEAP sessions for all elementary teachers, has been in partnership with our equity department, with our special ed department, so that it's not separate pieces when we're thinking about literacy. And that's been the focus of our professional learning with teachers this year, is to think about having that all tied together. The other piece I want to tie actually to our work with strategic planning is thinking about what Kelly said about looking at blending social studies and literacy and science and all those pieces, because as we get better at thinking about practice, we recognize that when students really see themselves and they feel like it's connected and relevant, that skills are not in isolation. They learn at a much deeper level and it sticks with them. So I just want to say that's a path that we're going on that Kelly had mentioned, but I wanted to call out as particular strengths of the work.
Awesome. I did have one question.
Okay.
And it kind of goes off topic, so
Do you
I'm fine if you want to get back to me later. But I was thinking actually of our school visit last year when we went to was it Finhill Middle School, and we were able to interact a little bit with some of the multilingual learners and talk to some of the teachers there, and they mentioned that, you know, they have some students that are coming in who are not literate at the middle school level in their first languages, and how it's been really difficult to try to bridge that gap when they're not yet literate and they're not reading at their grade level in their first language. How do you even get them to get close in a second language? And I was wondering, it just made me curious, what are our supports for students above 5th grade, potentially, who are coming from other countries and need help with literacy?
So the one question that I might ask is how are we determining that students are not at grade level in their first language? Because we really have over 111 languages spoken in our district. So that was one of the first questions, like, oh my gosh, how do they know that?
I think they were saying that they weren't reading at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I think that we do have safety net that bridges into middle school and in high school, and we have a class called Reading Acceleration that we have found some success with our multilingual learners. And it really is on the premise, you've heard of the program Lexia. It's the Lexia extension, and we're with really explicit, clear direction around what students need and how they need to practice the phonics and phonemic awareness in a way that doesn't look like they're just learning the skill as kindergartners, but it's more age appropriate. But I'm happy I can put together a brief, if you would like, on what we do around multilingualism and learning to read. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Stewart, did you have a question?
Oh, not a question, but a thank you. Your work on literacy is not only important to their underpinning for the other classes, but if it hadn't been for reading a variety of things, I would not have ever thought beyond my county lines or my city lines. And it allows people that can't afford to travel in their mind. And that is invaluable, to think beyond just where they live and to encounter other cultures. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda this evening is the monitoring report for OE11, the instructional program. Through these policies, the board establishes its values about how the school district is expected to operate and the express conditions that must exist as business is conducted. The monitoring report contains the superintendent's interpretation of policy language, a review of current conditions, and monitoring data. The monitoring actions make up part of the board's oversight of the organization and assures the board that its operational standards have been met. Following the presentation, the board will have an opportunity for questions and comments. Dr. Holman, will you please present a summary of the monitoring report?
Absolutely. And so tonight we have two operational expectations that you're monitoring. The first is the instructional program. Appreciate Kelly and Jen providing that update. The instructional program really is the core of what we do, and so it's important that we inspect this and continue to modify our program moving forward. So the policy statement in OE11 says that the superintendent shall maintain a program of instruction that offers challenging and relevant opportunities for all students to achieve at levels defined in the board's results policies. The board has 10 specific policy components here, And we just modified OE11 this last spring. And so as the board knows, there's some modifications, and we're monitoring some new areas based on those modifications. And so this report is presented to the board as in compliance. The board received the monitoring report about a week and a half ago, and so I'm doing a high-level overview of some of the highlights. I'm not going to go into all of the details, but if the board has questions, happy to entertain those. So 11.1 states that the superintendent will assure that instructional programs are based on a comprehensive and objective review of effective practices and research. There's a number of indicators for this policy. A couple of highlights. Our processes for ensuring the academic program, number one, they follow our established policies and procedures. I think that's an important aspect to have alignment between our policies and procedures, what are we saying we're about, and the work that's being done. Our program is grounded in research. You just heard very explicitly that we're specifically using early literacy program that is based in structured literacy, not the subsequent adoption that kind of deviated from what we know is best for our students. And third here, just that thoughtfully and deeply we evaluate the components of the academic program and continue to be consistent and thorough through those processes. 11.2 states the superintendent will base instruction on district academic standards that meet or exceed state and or national standards. Have a couple of different indicators here. We know we have a continued focus on providing teachers with resources. Again, I'm going to just continue to tie back to what you heard from Kelly. While we're not adopting a new literacy curriculum today, we have a robust structured literacy program. We're providing teachers with training and support and connections to the resource through professional learning around those resources. We provide alignment guides which help our teachers understand the alignment between the standards, the instruction, and the curriculum, as well as supplemental curriculum when there's gaps in the identified curricular areas. We also go through processes to develop and or revise resources. The resources that we provide to our teachers, they're not static because the world is always evolving and changing, and so we make sure that on an ongoing basis we're going through those processes to update those, revise those, and make sure our teachers have the materials and resources they need to teach students. 11.3 states that the superintendent will ensure curriculum and instructional strategies are aligned with the standards. Again, this was one of the curricular areas that there was significant modification to through our update this last year. So this component was expanded to include instructional strategies in recognition that how content is taught, not just what is taught, is essential to a solid academic program. Supporting high quality instruction has been the primary focus in Lake Washington for many years, and we continue to capture this as part of the core program. A few elements for 11.3. Part of our work is ensuring that we have a multi-departmental approach to this work, because while yes, the work of our teaching and learning group is part of it, they collaborate with our student services team, our professional learning team, our equity and family engagement department. So it isn't just one department that moves instructional resources and strategies forward. So in this area of coordinated and systemic support for the professional practices, we have our professional learning, our instructional resources, and the adoption and alignment committee and work groups that are always ongoing. 11.4 states that the superintendent will effectively measure each student's progress toward achieving or exceeding the standards. You can see here again a number of elements, indicators that the board has adopted for this. Of note, this last year was the first year we were able to fully implement our universal screener that we adopted, I believe it was 3 years prior. Adopting a universal screener in the middle of a global pandemic is difficult, and so we actually had to make some choices in that. And so we identified some elements within the screener that were required during COVID, and now happy to report that it is fully implemented K-8. We continually provide resources through an internal staff portal so that our staff have access, but also that those resources are durable and in a place where staff know to go back to. And a very specific element related to this policy component are secondary teachers. They are continuing to think about their practices around assessment, and so secondary teachers participated in professional learning focused on assessment this last year. 11.5 states that the superintendent will assure the instructional program includes opportunities for students to develop talents and interests in their specialized areas of interest. So a few highlights here. Our enrollment in career and technical education courses continues to grow year over year, which is exciting because that is also based on interest of students. We're continually evaluating and adding new courses to our course catalog through a school-based process. Those processes are based on number one, interest, but also ensuring that we have staff that can teach those at high level. Part of our program are the partnerships that we establish, and the board has seen over a number of reporting areas that the partnerships that we establish within the community to provide really support for the interest and academic coursework of our students is quite extensive. We also know that our secondary schools, our administrators and counselors collaborate to work to create a master schedule that is driven by our students' interests. And so ensuring that students have coursework that they enjoy participating in, we know elevates and increases their engagement in that content. 11.6 was another area that was substantially revised through the board's process. 11.6 states that the superintendent will ensure the instructional program promotes academic success for all students through high-quality instruction and inclusive learning environments that are designed to meet the needs of all learners and responds with differentiated instruction to meet the needs of students of various backgrounds and abilities. You think about this value that the board has stated here. It is in direct alignment with our commitment to an equitable education system for students, a system that focuses on inclusionary practices, and truly working to meet the needs of students through core instruction based on their various backgrounds and abilities. And so I appreciate the board identifying this value because it truly does provide leadership to the organization. I'm not going to read through all of these. The kind of key indicator or key findings in this area are relatively substantial, and I have two slides actually to reference it. And so I'll just talk about some of the highlighted, the bolded areas. Our expansion of our multi-tiered systems of support. The idea that there's instruction and that we provide students with tier 1, 2, and 3 supports as they need. The focus on instructional strategies as opposed just to teaching curriculum, because we can give teachers the best curriculum in the world, and if they don't have the instructional pedagogy to be able to implement that in the classroom for this array of learners, then those resources don't help that teacher meet the needs of kids. You heard professional learning referenced quite extensively tonight. We know that the ask of our staff is substantial because the breadth of learners that come to our classrooms each and every day is quite dramatic, and our teachers step up to that challenge. But they need that ongoing support to be able to support that. We've talked about our dual language program in a couple of different capacities. The seal of biliteracy is another area that we've seen grow over time. I couldn't remember the title of this earlier, Director Bleasner, when I was recognizing you, so I'm glad it's in here this evening. But I remember when this started, we had a handful of students that were graduating with the seal of biliteracy. You can see in the class of 2023, 323 of our graduates. I believe that's, if I do my math pretty quickly, over 15% of our graduating class graduating with the seal of biliteracy. And if biliteracy is beneficial for being future ready, if it's part of what we know helps students to attain kind of empathy and a view of differences in culture, it's a great thing for us to measure, but also it prompts us to offer the assessment to make sure that our students are attaining that credit and able to demonstrate it in this way. And then our instructional programs. We have programs for unique learners that we continually look at and make sure are embedded in our system, highly capable, multilingual. Even our ENAP program really is a program to provide those supports for students. 11.7 states that the superintendent will ensure students starting in elementary school and continue through high school have opportunities and experiences to actively explore options and graduation pathways for their futures in ways that are relevant to them. Again, this was another area that was substantially modified. First highlight is we know that there are multiple pathways for students to meet their graduation pathway requirement. One of those ways are intentionally connecting CTE classes so that it is a pathway. Students can demonstrate competency through that and meet their graduation pathway. And so a multidisciplinary team, again, got together to develop these pathways, implemented these last year so that students had these available to them as they were working through that. The board also received a report on extracurricular activities. This has been a question the board has asked for, well, a minimum of 12 years. And so on your last evening on the board, you have a report that finally answers the question that you've been asking is, what are those extracurricular activities and opportunities for students K-12, not just our secondary students? And so appreciate the team putting that together because it does a nice job of capturing what is in the system, but it also does a nice job of identifying some of the gaps. As we know, these are ways that students remain engaged. 11.8 states that the superintendent will encourage new and innovative programs, approaches, and learning opportunities to increase student engagement and achievement in learning. And so just a couple of pieces here, really it's how are we doing this? For the board, we provide written updates. We hold study sessions in key areas. Last year, a few key areas, the arts, one of our, I believe in June, held a study session for the first time that I can remember, focused on the arts. And so really appreciated that. Career and technical education and college and career readiness. The team came and presented on that. And then our work around sustainability. While sustainability has multiple aspects to it, our curriculum and instruction are part of that. The board also receives presentations in a formal way anytime we're going through a curriculum adoption process. And so the team came and presented on secondary, I believe it was grades 8, 11, and 12. But I'll asterisk that from last year. It was 3 grade levels, and it was somewhere within there. But the team came and presented around that. Yes, about the materials, but also how those materials were connected to the board's policies, in particularly OE 14, knowing that our social studies curriculum, ensuring that we have all of those elements embedded in it are an important aspect. Families receive information in a variety of ways. One, we consistently communicate through connections around the adoption processes. We required by law to make materials available, provide information to families through that. But when a classroom is piloting materials, families receive direct communication around that so that they're aware of what's occurring in their classroom in those aspects. 11.9 state that the superintendent will regularly evaluate and modify all instructional programs and practices as necessary to assure their continuing effectiveness. A couple of highlights here. So our curriculum adoption cycle formally did evaluate grades 8, 11, and 12 social studies last year. I knew I remembered it was in this report somewhere. But we also looked at our Dreambox Learning Mathematics. It's a supplemental math support, and we make sure to cycle those through an evaluation as well to not only look at usage, because we pay for these programs, but also benefit. Are they providing the benefit for students that we are hoping to accomplish? We also have programs that we know lead to supports for our instructional programs, such as our Educator Introduction Academy. That is all new educators to the district. They participate in an August training to get oriented to the district and their area of focus. But EIA also is ongoing throughout the year to ensure that our new teachers receive that support. Also, our new teacher support program, which provides support for our brand new teachers to the profession. Our NTSP provides a mentor. They go, they observe, they partner, they're a shoulder to cry. There are all sorts of things. So that both of those programs went through an evaluation, and there was some pretty distinct modifications made to those programs based on the feedback that they were receiving from participants, things that were beneficial, things that those individuals didn't find as helpful, because we want those programs to be as supportive as possible. You've heard of the instructional playbook. That was based on a review of really our core instructional practices, and if we are to have core instruction available to all students, we truly had to go through a process to evaluate that, to identify what the next steps were. And then a formal program review that occurs periodically. It's called the Consolidated Program Review, or the CPR. That is, all of our federally funded programs go through a compliance evaluation. It sounds simple, and it is not. And so appreciate the team that went through that, and we received certification around our CPR findings. In the last area in OE11 states that the superintendent will protect the instructional time provided for students during the academic day. The indicators really do speak to some compliance aspects, and so we consistently comply with the school day requirements and the instructional hour requirements, and we maintain our administrative policies related to things such as the use of video and film in the classrooms to make sure that it's age appropriate. There's some restrictions around that, but also applicable to the curriculum and the content. And so OE11 is presented to the board as in compliance.
Thank you very much, Dr. Holman. Are there any questions or clarifications in regard to the information that has been presented for OE11? Shivani.
Okay, so I'm just a little bit confused. I think it's 11.4. I'm a little confused on what universal screening is. So does this mean it's universal in terms of all students are screened, or does it mean universal in terms of there are multiple facets to screening?
Thank you. Well, I'm here to clear up confusion. The universal screener, universal in that all students participate in it, K-8. It's also in both reading and mathematics.
And this is all like test-based, right? Because I know we talked about Quest programs last time and how they had like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they had like a testing, and then they had their grades in a class, and then I don't know what it's called, like FastBridge. Like, is it in terms of, you know, like there's test-based stuff and there's also like class-based stuff, or is it just all test-based?
Yeah. So FastBridge, so a screener is a test, but it's a short test. It's brief, and it's almost like a dipstick to see how students are doing in that area, and we get ratings on how the students are doing, and it helps us to identify, do we need to dig into this issue for a student to a greater level, because it's not going to evaluate a full-scale concern. it's more just a brief look into how a student is doing, so then if they are starting to struggle, we can catch that along the way rather than waiting for end of the year tests and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Director Stewart.
John, you might want to define dipstick for a person that drives an electric car, please.
That is a fair statement. For those that only drive electric vehicles, a dipstick checks the amount of oil left in the engine. Yeah, sorry, I'm dating myself.
Are there any other questions? Director Guthrie.
Has there been any work done around professional development and measuring the effectiveness, or for some of the things mentioned here, it's okay, this training is available. Are teachers accessing it? Are they finding it helpful? How do you gauge or think about gauging, not just providing it, but are we providing what teachers really need to deliver great instruction in the classroom, which is all of our goals?
Yeah, I might ask Dr. Rose to provide information about that as well. As our teachers conclude a professional learning session, typically we are asking them for feedback on the session. Would you have additional feedback around that?
Yes, we always ask for feedback on the session, and we also ask for a couple different things. We ask for what next would be a helpful topic. We ask, how did this impact your practice? So we do what's a relatively traditional survey, and we're getting more consistent about asking the exact same questions after every professional learning session. And we also look at a couple different other sources of data. So one is observational from building leaders. What are they seeing in classrooms, and what supports might I'll use illustrative mathematics as an example. As teachers are implementing IM, are building leaders seeing specific kinds of professional learning that might be helpful? And then in the background, we'll take that information, we'll develop some resources based on that and based on the surveys. And we also really consistently use teacher advisories. So those are folks from across the building. So our adoption committees become our implementation committees, who become our steering committees or our advisories. So they're teachers with deep knowledge of the changes that we're trying to see in instruction, and they will help us understand what additional learning and resources teachers need. So it's a continual process to think about, how do you measure a change in practice? And yes, absolutely, student test scores are one way, but it's much more complex than that. So we're continuing to work towards that goal. The piece that's linked in here, and I'll stop talking in just a moment, that I thought could be really interesting, because it's the professional learning report from OE14. And that's linked in this one because that really reflects, like we're talking about with literacy, we're trying not to have professional learning on equity and inclusive practices and K-5 math, that it's the same piece. So as we're talking about equitable outcomes for all students, we're talking about making sure we're following the scope and sequence in K-5 math and really thinking about why. So lots of different ways that we're providing professional learning and taking input to try and guide it so it's most effective.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Director Bleasner.
No questions. I have comments.
Okay. Would you like to provide those comments now or during
Nope,
discussion?
I'll wait for a motion.
Yes. Okay. If there are no other questions for clarification, I will now entertain a motion to accept and approve the monitoring report as presented.
I move to accept and approve the monitoring report for OE 11 as presented.
Second.
Is there any further discussion at this point?
Last meeting.
Director Liliberty.
Okay. Thank you, Director Bleasner, for allowing me to go first. I just have one comment, and that's on OE 11.6. That it, in brief, assure that the instructional program promotes academic success. My mic feels very 106. I'll shout. Okay, there we go. Assure the instructional program promotes academic success for all students. Thank you, Director Stewart. I know that the period for monitoring for this report is, I think the conclusion is August of 2023, right? So this is more a comment for what I would assume and expect to see in the next monitoring report. for when we monitor this again, and that is, I think about our program review that's ongoing right now for highly capable programs. I would assume that an indicator of compliance would be, or I would assume and expect an indicator of compliance would be that program review ensured that our highly capable programs are in alignment with this policy. And that I assume that part of that program review is looking at this specific policy language and thinking about that in terms of direction of the program.
Director Bleasner.
Yeah, thank you. So mine was back to 11.5. And sorry, I'd have to go write it. I didn't write it down. 11.9, 11.7. If you could click to it, it'd be so much easier, wouldn't it? About an instructional program including opportunities for students to develop talents and interests in their specialized areas of interest. Our indicators are focused at secondary school. There is really not a lot of and actually mostly high school. There's not a lot of speaking to what's happening in our middle schools or in elementary potentially as well for those options. I'd encourage that gets expanded in which to be able to take care of that. Or I'd like that to be expanded. I'm not going to encourage it. Remember that from the last time. So I guess that's the one piece that I see here that we're just missing. I especially would say middle school would be a priority because that is a place for opportunity and exploration that I think we could really think about how we do that more effectively within that environment. There's a cool thing. I just like to call out some great things that you see through here. I think the annual report in regards to extracurriculars, I think that is a call out. I think some of the qualitative information that's being pulled up to sort of give some running history and understanding of what's going on is useful because we often hear little things in little schools, in a school, but that would be it. Also the work of the professional development and recognizing, I appreciate Kelly Pisa's presentation in regards to the work really of that literacy is a core skill and needs to be taught as a core foundation. Having a daughter with dyslexia, it is exciting to see that this is finally taking a foothold in our district, and excited to see the results that let's have 100% reading by third grade. So that's fabulous. So I just wanted to highlight that piece as well.
Director Guthrie.
Yeah, just a comment. I think, so I would, I know we've talked about generative AI quite a bit and where that might fit into policy. And I think it was under, if I can find it real quick, I think it was under 11.8. Encourage new and innovative programs, approaches, and learning opportunities to increase student engagement and achievement in learning. So thinking about, again, not something for this monitoring, but that's something that I would love to see in next year's monitoring is what has the district been doing in that area to encourage innovation.
The state of Washington is working pretty diligently around guidance for school districts right now, and so once that is completed, I'm wondering if that may be a good lens for us to think about how does that layer into either an indicator or a policy change. Superintendent Reichdahl is taking a pretty active role in this, and his concept is you have humans on both sides of the AI experience, meaning you have a human input, then there's generative AI, but then you need another human element to actually make meaning of what just occurred. And so they're engaging, I believe, the right people to do this work, and I'm actually kind of intrigued as to what's going to be the output from OSPI on this. And so when that's done, I'll definitely bring that in because that may prompt some thinking on our part, given what the state is doing as well.
Director Stewart.
Perhaps as OSPI is working on this project, I would encourage us to ask our staff, our teaching staff, how they're seeing the impact and how they believe they could use it better so we can give input to OSPI as they're creating their policy. I mean, I hate to see them create their policy up here when the folks in the classrooms may have some very great insights at how it would help them in the classroom as opposed to just from a policy standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. We're reaching out to find out best ways to engage. I also know that I'm going to say his name wrong, but Jeff Utek. There's a different way to say his last name that's correct, and I'm not saying it correct. He came to our last full administrative meeting and did a hour 45-minute session with all of our district administrators. I talked to one principal the other day, and he's actually taking that back to his staff just to have an experience with staff. And so there's definitely some work going on right now for appropriate usage. Not always with students. Sometimes it's for teacher effectiveness and benefit as well. And so all of those areas are good for policy considerations.
Anyone else? Shivani?
Okay, this is just a comment, but I wanted to echo what Director Stewart said about reaching out to staff, because I do know, like, at school right now, my teachers do use AI to, like, create lesson plans, and we're also allowed to use AI on our assignments as long as we say we used AI. So I definitely think, like, talking to students and staff members who've already incorporated AI into their curriculums is really important and effective to helping us inform our own policy.
Just an idea, maybe. One. Test. Okay. So, I think one idea we may have is establishing either a student linkage or a committee on AI that incorporates members of the teacher staff, board members, and students. And for the linkage in particular, similar to how we had the sustainability and the and later the mental health one, maybe in the 2024 to 2025 school year, I think that could be an interesting idea to get those perspectives, kind of like how Shivani was saying.
Anyone else? I had one final question. For 11.9, you reference K-5 Math Supplemental Tool Committee reevaluated Dreambox as another tool that our teachers are using. And then I was reflecting back to Director Pease's presentation, and she referred to Lexia, the use of Lexia, and then going back again to our school visits and seeing students in classrooms using their devices and utilizing Lexia and Dreambox and edge typing. And I was curious, one, I wonder if, I think there's a learning opportunity here for the board in terms of how are these tools being used in our classrooms, because I think the extent of use I was surprised by when we did our school visit. So I think it might be useful to potentially have a learning around these resources and their effectiveness and how they're used in our classes. Yes, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, let me talk with the team to see if a written update or a presentation in person would be better. Yeah, that'd be great.
Just one last comment, just thinking through this is, as I'm reading the policy, nowhere do we talk about online instruction or asynchronous. So is there something within the instructional program policy that we want to be having that discussion as to what are those values that lay out within there? I think that's work for the board to think about going forward.
I did have one more question. A lot of this is in reference to our instructional programming at our schools. I was just curious, how does that work with our partners, with WANIC or with DigiPen and their choices in instructional programming? Do we collaborate, or is it an agreement that, you know, they kind of do their thing?
So for each CTE class, there's a framework that has to be developed and approved by OSPI. And so in that, it is somewhat already set for us what the kind of the program, the outcomes, and those components are for those programs. That's true of all of our CTE programs, including our, WANC is all CTE programs, DigiPen is CTE programs. So in that, that's kind of the alignment across the state for career and technical education. In terms of alignment with our instructional program, our instructional playbook, a number of the WANC staff are LWSD employees. There's others that aren't, but they receive similar trainings and support. Not exactly the same, but similar. They're evaluated using the same methods as our, teachers in our schools and things like that.
Director Stewart.
I'm not sure if this is the place for it, but I'll ask for it anyway. As we're looking at the CTE, and you mentioned the restrictions or requirements that are set forth by the state, I'm wondering if perhaps we ought to be talking to our CTE instructors, and for that matter, the students, to see if what the guidelines are having to follow in CTE, if that's hemming them in too much, if there's some modifications that need to be made to improve the quality of its CTE, but also to be able to expand it to other topics, other professions / career opportunities. I don't know if anything in those guidelines are preventing us from being creative and addressing some needs, whether it be in paraeducators, encouraging paraeducators, for that matter, encouraging people to go into teaching. And I would love to see a CTE program that would pick up on the kids that really want to go into teaching.
Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, we will proceed to vote on the motion. It has been moved by Director LaLiberty and seconded by Director Guthrie? No, Stewart. Sorry. that the board accept and approve the monitoring report as presented. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
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 All those opposed, hearing none, the motion carries. The next item on the agenda this evening is the monitoring report for OE5, financial planning. Dr. Holman.
Okay, so as the board knows, there's some of the monitoring reports that are on consent agenda. OE6, which really does pair pretty closely with OE5, was on consent agenda this evening. OE5 really does look at the processes that we're using for budgeting and planning looking forward. And so the policy statement says that the superintendent shall develop and present to the board a multi-year financial plan that is related directly to the board's results, priorities, and operational expectations, goals, and that avoids long-term fiscal jeopardy to the district. And so this report, all areas are rated as in compliance or are presented as in compliance with no exceptions. 5.1 states that the superintendent will develop a budget that is in a summary format, understandable to the board and community, presented in a manner that allows the board to understand the relationship between the budget and the results, priorities, and any operational expectations, goals for the year. So a couple of summary findings here. The board receives budget information through written, verbal, and visual presentation. And that's an ongoing cycle that the board receives. The budget is prepared in two different formats. First, the required state formats that very few of us know how to read, and a format that is more readable to the non-CFO type. That really does a nice job of connecting our resources with our strategic priorities and the goals of the district. That format allows us to communicate more effectively how we're using the resources that we receive from the various sources. The budget is explicitly connected to our strategic direction. The board has heard over the last few years the direct connection to our commitment to equity, the direct connection to inclusionary practices, MTSS. Like those are areas that we specifically connect our budget information to. 5.2 states that the superintendent will develop a budget that clearly describes revenues and expenditures with adequate supporting detail. First, the budget documents include both detailed expenditures and revenue information. The budget was also adopted by OSPI. That's like a very compliancy type check, but that's an important part of our budget process. 5.3 states the superintendent will develop a budget that shows the amount spent in each budget category for the most recently completed fiscal year, the amount budgeted for the current fiscal year, the amount budgeted for the next fiscal year, and 3 years of budget forecasts. That was an updated policy statement because our prior statement didn't align with the law. And so this policy statement was updated to align with the law. And so the board does receive budget information. It describes both historical and projected revenues and expenditures. We have always reported a fiscal outlook, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. We actually have even further than that for our planning purposes that we don't typically report, because when you have a 10-year outlook, it's not as accurate. But we are always thinking, what is the vantage point 10 years down the road, so that we make sure that our planning is in accordance with that. 5.4 states that the superintendent will develop a budget that discloses budget planning assumptions. As the board knows, the assumptions that are embedded in our budget are primary in your being able to authorize and support it. Because if our assumptions are such that we're not providing accurate enrollment figures or other issues, then we know that our budget is going to be off. And so we consistently provide the board with enrollment updates to make sure that as we are moving through the budget cycle, that our projections and that information aligns. We use an outside demographer to help validate and provide us with as accurate enrollment projections as possible. And the budget presentations include detailed budget assumptions, because we know that there's various elements such as the inflationary adjustment for staff salaries. Well, we have what OSPI has provided us for the next handful of years, and so we layer those into the budget information that we have for the look ahead, knowing that those are assumptions, but when those change, we update those and modify our budget outlooks. But ensuring that the board has all of that information around assumptions helps the board to stay apprised of the budget planning and picture. 5.5 states that the superintendent will develop a budget that assures fiscal soundness in future years, that includes provisions for reasonable contingencies. I think we just lived through the largest reasonable contingency period in our careers. But the 4-year outlook demonstrates contingencies and planning based on assumptions and known changes. We can't foresee everything that's coming, but ensuring that we build a budget that can be responsive to changes such as enrollment changes, changes in compensation requirements, new overhead costs, the constructing of new schools. Anytime we propose a new school to be added to this system, we then bring in that budget cycle to the board information around a budget that has assumptions for the overhead costs. And so those are the types of things that we're always thinking about as we're developing the budget. 5.6 states that the superintendent will develop a budget that provides necessary information to the board on matters with significant budgetary impact, allowing the board adequate time to consider the information presented. We don't come to you the last meeting in August and ask you to adopt a budget. It is, for us, it's important that this really is an annual cycle. We are always going through the budget planning process because your understanding of the state of things today is important to be able to then authorize a new budget for the following school year. And so the monthly financial reports that the board has provided are key to that. And evidence of doing our job as well as we can. We didn't have to ask for a budget extension last year, and there's different reasons why you ask for budget extensions. Maybe we received a grant of X millions of dollars, and we don't have that capacity in our budget. You need to ask for a budget extension at times to receive money as well as to expend money. 5.7 states that the superintendent will develop a budget that reflects anticipated changes in employee compensation, including inflationary adjustments, step increases, performance increases, and benefits. So really what this policy says, this policy component states, is that we will monitor and assure that the employee life cycle is considered within the budget, knowing that every employee is in a different phase. Different employee groups have different steps, so all of those components need to be considered as we're developing the budget. So the budget does include known changes to employee compensation. That is, yes, when we're negotiating contracts, but also just that year-over-year change that occurs for many employees. The budget information also always has the assumption of IPD, and that assumption is based on what OSPI provides. And just a few years ago, when the assumption that OSPI had provided around IPD was 2%, and then I believe they came in with a 5.5 inflationary adjustment. Contingency planning. 5.8 states that the superintendent will develop a budget that includes such amounts as the board determines to be necessary for its own governing function. We actually, in our September Saturday study session, did a review of the board's budget, and what you know is that we set money aside to ensure that the governance processes, procedures, and requirements can be met, and that this board can function as a governing body. 5.9 states that the superintendent will develop a budget that is based on reasonable consultation with appropriate constituent groups. A couple of pieces here. We do have an internal process and procedure to seek feedback from a variety of sources and inputs. External feedback and input, we use a variety of sources: our panorama survey, thought exchange, our budget planning processes. But as I think about it, it's also, we heard about our high school day evaluation tonight. Well, that's an input into the budget cycle. Our highly capable program review. Those are all different ways that we get inputs into our planning processes, and part of those planning processes are related directly back to our budget. And so as I was putting this together, I think we've actually missed some of the connection points with external stakeholders because we may not be thinking holistically enough about all of the various aspects of engagement, because I can tell you the high school day committee, they are making a budget recommendation at the end of the day, whether it's status quo or whether it's a change. That's a budget recommendation that we probably should recognize differently as we're reporting to the board. And then 5.10 states that the superintendent may not develop a budget that plans for the expenditure in any fiscal year of more funds than are conservatively projected to be available during that year. And so the board has received for a number of years and continues to receive a budget that includes the use of both revenues and right now also fund balance. Both are available during the year. 511 states the superintendent may not develop a budget that provides for an anticipated year-end fund balance of less than 5% of the projected revenue. So we continue to meet that mark. And as the board knows, we've been spending our fund balance intentionally down over time. And so that again occurred in this last year. I think our fund balance right now is coming in right around the 13% mark. And it's anticipated to continue to be spent down. And then our budget work moving forward really is about aligning revenues with expenditures while maintaining a buffer in our fund balance above that 5%. And this report is presented to the board as in compliance.
Thank you, Dr. Holman. Are there any questions or clarification in regards to the information presented for OE5? Director Guthrie.
Really basic question. What is IPD?
Thank you. The implicit price deflator, I think, is the actual term. It's a measure of inflation. CPI is another measure of inflation. CPI is typically a little bit more liberal. IPD is a little bit more conservative, and the state has landed on using IPD for K-12 inflationary adjustment annually.
Any other questions? Shivani.
Okay, this is kind of like a little bit super unrelated, but I'm just gonna ask it because I'm just wondering. Okay, but I know in the sustainability policy specifically, like we have something that talks about electric buses, and I was wondering, like, that's like a financial thing. Would that come into like this specific policy? Like, would that be something that would be talked about, like, when electric buses do happen?
Yes, and I would also say that if the board adopted a policy that required electric buses, well, then we would have to take that policy statement and align our budget planning and processes to ensure that we were able to meet that requirement. Right now, so transportation is funded at the state level. Yes, we use some of our local levy dollars for it. There isn't a program right now that allows districts to electrify their fleet without substantial investments that the majority of districts, including us, we don't have without making some pretty substantial changes elsewhere. And so that's why part of our legislative advocacy is also around, yes, electrification, but it's also about the funding for it. And there's some ways that we believe we can get there, with the state possibly thinking a little bit differently about transportation. So it's going to be a partnership for us to accomplish that. But to your point, if we were to do that all on our own, our budget process would have to respond to that. Good question.
Okay, thank you.
Director Bleasner.
So just wanted a little further clarification on the external stakeholders and the activities in that area. I appreciate your idea that the committees are feeding that in. Just remind me, there is a budget committee that got started this year as well, correct?
Correct.
After August 2023.
And I realized that, but what I wanted to ask was, who is on that budget committee? Like, what is that budget committee made up of? I realize it's past the time, but it would frame my response to this if I know what's occurring.
I'm going to ask Associate Superintendent Barbara Posthumus to come up and provide us with as good of recollection on kind of membership and makeup of that committee.
So the makeup of the Budget Advisory Committee, and we did start that this fall. We've had 2 meetings, one in October and one in November, and it's made up of about 30 parents, community members, staff. So.
That's great. Thank you. I appreciate just that approach, because that is an ongoing committee at this point, correct?
It is. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And the board member is? Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, I will now entertain a motion to accept and approve the monitoring report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Director LaLiberty and seconded by Director Bleasner that the board accept and approve the monitoring report as presented. Is there any further discussion? Director Bleasner?
Sure. I would just like, it is in compliance. I think we continue to see good work done by our financial team and department in being able to manage the budget and actually looking for additional ways in which to incorporate our community and other stakeholders in doing so. So appreciate the work that has gone into this and the continued efforts in improving our process through financial planning. So thank you.
Director Liliberty?
Want to highlight for Barbara, tell me if I have the number wrong. I believe there are 30-something people that are participating in the Budget Advisory Committee. So it's a large group of stakeholders. So we're going forward in our next monitoring cycle, we're going to have the most input into the budget, just those 30 people alone, about 30 times the level of input we normally receive in our budget process. So it's pretty exciting to have that.
Director Guthrie?
Yeah, that would be my comment is that this talks about people having input into the decision-making process and just making sure that's really meaningful input and that people have the opportunity to engage and to have their input reflected, not just sort of received, because ultimately where we put our money is what our priorities are, and reflect our priorities really as a community.
To that point, I think it's a really good point, and the board received a recommendation in the study session tonight around construction, and you saw the priorities that the facility advisory put forward, which were very well articulated, which were very meaningful, and truly did help shape the recommendation and how we were thinking about it. And so to that point, it's amazing when you get people in a room thinking about, that are like-minded in terms of supporting the district, thinking about the district. The recommendations they put forward and the information they help really does help to shape. And so excited about the budget advisory process as well.
And I'd love to see that called out too in the monitoring report, is when there are examples like that, just being able to celebrate that work, and also be able to show the community, here are examples where the district really is responding to your feedback would be really helpful, I think, for everybody.
And along those lines, you mentioned that we fund our strategic plan priorities, and we are going through a very big engagement process around our strategic plan. So I would also argue that would also be part of the engagement here. Okay, well, hearing no further discussion, we will proceed to vote on the motion. It has been moved by Director Liliberty and seconded by Director Bleasner that the board accept and approve the monitoring report as presented. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you very much, Dr. Holman and your whole team. The next item on our agenda this evening is the board compensation resolution. Dr. Holman.
So the board has met in study session to talk about board compensation. I believe it was 2 meetings ago. Had a formal conversation here at a business meeting around board compensation. Tonight you have a resolution put forward for your consideration. It was modified based on feedback at the last meeting. Also received a question around Attorney General guidance around board compensation. So I did some follow-up with those that interpret and know about Attorney General guidance. And I wanted to share that with the board so that you can have that information, and if you would prefer to propose a modification to this resolution, you can consider that tonight. And so did speak with David Johnston today for a period of time just to make sure that I understood the AG's guidance. It was interesting. He said, well, number one, there is no court ruling on this issue. Attorney General guidance is just that. It's their thinking. It's not the rule of law, but it's typically a relatively well-informed opinion. And so David doesn't know if other districts have complied with this. He knows that the North Shore School District, in their resolution adopting board compensation, did comply with the AG's opinion, and so a neighbor to the north. And really the AG's opinion, which was written back in 1989 and has not been modified since, nor has it been challenged in court since that date. It essentially says that, well, it makes the leap that as board members, you are municipal officers. Well, that's even debatable. And so that making that leap as the AG, that's not everyone holds that opinion, that board members are municipal officers. But nonetheless, the AG in 1989 said, as municipal officers, you may not vote to receive compensation during your term. And so that's the AG's opinion for municipal officers, and then made the, well, that's the Constitution, and then the AG connected the Constitution to board members as well, in his opinion, or her opinion. I don't know which AG wrote it, so I can't say who that was. Thank you. And so I asked David, I said, okay, what are the options that the board has? He said, well, conservatively, you can follow the AG's guidance. He says, statutorily, they're really the only thing that the statute says is that board members after resolution can receive compensation. And so he said if you take a less conservative approach, you could adopt a resolution and start receiving compensation should you choose. The legislative intent of the law speaks nothing to timing. And so in that, David felt comfortable, with whatever decision the board makes. And so what are the options? Well, he says it's odd for some to receive and some not. He just said that's an oddity. But if the board were to adopt a resolution tonight, there would be 3 board members that would be either resworn in or sworn in at the December 4th meeting, which could then receive compensation because it is a new term. But there would be 2 board members that wouldn't be able to receive compensation under those rules. And so there's the idea of, do you want it available to all board members, some board members, or take action and state that as of December 2025, that a compensation resolution will be implemented. Because in December 2025, our other 2 board positions will have been on the ballot, been voted on, and new terms would start. And so by delaying it until then, it would be all board members at the same time.
Thank you, Dr. Holman. Are there any questions?
I guess the question I would have is did North Shore do exactly what you just said?
I'll read for you what they did.
Oh, thank you.
They had a carve out that it would apply to board members elected or appointed following the adoption of this resolution. So they had it effective immediately, but it was applicable to only to board members, quote, elected or appointed following the adoption of this resolution. Can I offer comment? Or is there additional question? I don't want to.
We're just questions. We will do discussion after a motion.
Just questions. Can I do a comment in the form of? No, I won't do that. John, I'm sorry. Could you give me the idea that you said just about 270 seconds ago, where you said we could have it effective as of that we could adopt an option could be to adopt a resolution that can you just give me again so I understand what you were, because I didn't quite wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, so we have 3 board positions that are yet to be certified from this last election. They'll be certified, and yourself, Director Guthrie, and our new board member, assuming everything gets certified, Ms. Yoakum, will be sworn in at the December 4th meeting.
Right.
If a resolution were passed tonight, and I asked this question specifically, if the board passed a resolution tonight, the 3 of you would then have that decision to make around compensation. Given that, President Choi, Director Stewart would not be able to receive compensation until they went through the process of election again, were certified, and re-sworn in.
Assuming that we also, whether we say it explicitly or not, follow what we understand, follow the opinion of the Attorney General.
Correct.
Okay. I'll save my comments.
So then the recommendation was, or one of the options was, would you like to explain the 2025 again? Or are you good?
I understand. I have
Okay.
opinions, but
Director Guthrie, did you have something? Okay. No other questions? Okay. I will now entertain a motion to adopt board compensation resolution number 2362.
I don't know my Robert's rules, but
As
a
presented.
point of clarification, order, something. I have a question.
Yes.
On that. Under Robert's rules, can I amend the resolution that is before us now, or does it need to be a motion first to have that?
At
teed up?
this point, there has not been a motion, so you could make a motion to amend the resolution.
Okay. I am going to do that. And I'll save my reasons later. First, I'll just give the motion. I move to amend the resolution that's before the board to become effective. I'm still blanking on the language that Dr. Holman proposed. This to become effective in December of 2025.
Second.
December
of 2025.
December of 2025.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Can I give my opinion now?
Yes.
Okay. I think the Attorney General is wrong in his, at the time is wrong in his or her interpretation of the Washington State Constitution. That said, I think it is good policy for us to effectively follow that and to be explicit, or to craft this resolution in such a way where it is explicit that that is what we are following, that none of the board members voting on this to approve it today will receive any compensation during the current term, or even the next term that's going to start in a matter of weeks. So, so I think this is having the effective date. I had less elegant solutions than what Dr. Holman brought forward today. So I think that having the effective date set further out accomplishes the interest of this board, or accomplishes the interest that were expressed in having this come forward, of providing some level of compensation down the road for those who should need it, but also guarding against some of the, let's face it, conflicts of interest almost inherent in a board deciding to pay itself, and just the discomfort that comes with that. So, yes, that's where I'm at. Also, I guess another option is we could have theoretically put this off until after our next meeting where we have it. We are sworn in, and at that point, if we were to do that, adopt the resolution, we couldn't receive it because we would be in our next term. I do think this current board, we've talked about this. I think my view, we have an obligation to vote on this one way or another. So I would prefer that we take action on this today, one way or another.
Dr. Holman.
I just want to make sure I'm documenting. So I have the resolution here on our screens, and so At the end, it states approved by the Board of Directors of the Lake Washington School District Number 414 in its regular meeting of November 6, 2023, comma, effective December 2025. That is what I believe the.
Yeah. Do we need a date certain in December of 2025? I mean, it could be December 1st. I mean, the election.
We could also do January 2026.
I'd say the first board meeting of December.
First board meeting in
Effective the
December.
first board meeting of December 2025. Yeah.
Director Stewart.
Not only do I like the fact that it adheres to the spirit of the Attorney General's opinion, I also think that being a little bit of an optimist, hopefully we'll be in a little bit more financial shape. I think it sends a bad message to the staff who are that we have that we're telling them to cut, and all of a sudden we're proposing that we compensate ourselves. I think that hopefully by December 25 things will be a little bit better. And then at that point, if someone decides that they want compensation, so be it, I guess. But I think it sends a wrong message at this point.
Director Guthrie.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate why we're doing this, or what we've discussed previously, which is that this is in service or in hope that we will that this will help us attract a more diverse board, and it doesn't make sense for that to take effect immediately, because the folks who would benefit immediately have already been elected. So I like the idea of pushing it out until after basically the next board election, so that we have a full cycle to work on attracting a more diverse board. I also want to just acknowledge again that this is one component of that, and that I feel that we need to be really committed as a board to not having this just be the one thing we do in service of that goal. Another reason why I like pushing it off is that it gives us some time to make good on that commitment.
Director Bleasner.
I support the amendment as going forward. It seems to make a lot of sense and seems reasonable. I would echo Director Guthrie's comments in regards to this has been on the books to be able to do since, I believe, the 1970s, 1986, sorry, and we've never taken an actual resolution to do so. So I think it's of value that we do take that step so that it is available, and then there's a nice compromise within there to be able to address the other issues at hand.
Any other points of discussion? Director Stewart.
I agree with Director Guthrie on the fact that to be quite frank, I think it was $50, if I recall correctly. That kind of an impact on creating a more diverse board has less of an impact than what we could do otherwise. $50 is barely 2 hours of compensation, at maybe 3 at the most, of minimum wage as it exists now. So I think there are things that we could do to enhance the diversity far beyond compensating for 3 hours of work.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Okay. Hearing no further discussion, we will proceed to a vote. It has been moved by Director LaLiberty and seconded by Director Stewart to...
So I guess right now the motion is to amend the is it to approve the resolution as amended, or is it just to amend the resolution? It doesn't matter to me, frankly. I just want to make sure we have it clear.
I believe your motion was to amend the resolution.
That's what my motion was. Okay.
Okay. So, yes, we will have to have two different votes. So the first vote will be we were voting on the amendment for the resolution, to add the language of an effective date of the first board meeting in December of 2025. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
We entertain another
I will
motion?
now entertain a motion to adopt the board compensation resolution number 2362 with the amendment.
So moved.
Second.
It has been, is there any further discussion?
No, well, yes. Sorry, I don't know why I said no, because then I started talking.
Director
So
Laliberte.
I just want to say I appreciate all the conversation from my fellow board members and from staff around this. It's made me think more deeply, not just about this particular resolution, but about the composition of the board as a whole and the work that our obligation as board members to that down the line. So I just thank you everyone for talking.
I'd like to thank everyone for engaging in this. I know it's awkward and it's uncomfortable and it's weird that we have to do this for our own positions. So thank you for engaging in conversation. Hearing no further discussion, we will proceed to a vote. It has been moved by Director Laliberte, seconded by Director Stewart, to adopt the board compensation resolution number 2362 with the amendment. Dr. Holman, will you poll the board, please?
Yes. Director Guthrie?
Yes.
Director Bleasner?
Yes.
Director Stewart?
Yes.
Vice President Laliberte?
Yes.
President Choi?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. The next item is the superintendent report. Dr. Holman.
So my report is more of a statement tonight. During the season of gratitude, I hope we can all pause to be thankful for the gifts we have been given, our families, our friends, and in this context, this amazing school district. As a district, we have so many achievements and successes of our students, our staff, our families, and our community. Personally, I want to start by saying thank you to each of our stakeholders that have a vested interest in the success of our school district. Thank you for your dedication, your resilience, your creativity, your collaboration. Thank you for making our district a place where every student can learn, grow, and thrive. This community consistently rises to the occasion. We show courage, compassion, commitment. We show innovation, excellence, and equity. We show that we are stronger together than apart. We have so much to be proud of. Our students, they consistently demonstrate high academic performance, artistic expression, athletic accomplishments, community connectedness, and global awareness. Our staff consistently provides high-quality instruction, guidance, and support while pursuing their own professional growth and development. Our families, well, they're always involved and supportive, creating positive and nurturing environments for our students. Our community members and partners have been generous, they've been collaborative, they contribute their time, their talents, and their resources to this district. We have so much to be thankful for, and we continue to commit to furthering our system to ensure that all truly means all.
Thank you, Dr. Holman. The next item on our agenda this evening is Public and Community Affairs. This portion of the business meeting of the board is an opportunity for any board members to inform and provide updates from organizations or groups they engage with on behalf of Lake Washington School District. We will begin with a legislative update from Director Stewart.
We are on the eve, if you will, of the brief legislative session of, I believe it's 52 days. It's one that will require us to be nimble and quick, and Usually in a short legislative session, they always tell you don't bring anything new, but to be quite frank, I think we bring what we need to bring, and we'll continue to represent the needs of the district, regardless whether they deem it as new or not, because to be quite frank, it's an election season for them, and some of the issues that we have, most of those ladies and gentlemen could run on these issues. So I suggest that we not be shy about our legislative agenda.
If I could also add, we are in the middle of scheduling our pre-session meetings with our legislators. The rest of the board should have gotten an email requesting for your availability so that we could have everyone participate in some of these meetings and take turns getting to form relationships with our local legislators. So please make sure you respond regarding those dates, because they are right around the corner. And we just passed our legislative priorities on our consent agenda this evening. As a reminder, our legislative priorities. So these are going to be the areas that we are really advocating for during these sessions.
And if I remember correctly, we did have a visit from Senator Wellman, and so I don't know if we can have a quick little update on that.
We also had a visit from Senator Wellman that Director Stewart was able to attend.
Pardon my bad memory. Yes, we did, and I think it was a very successful meeting. She viewed our inclusive elementary school program. She was very impressed. In addition to her, she was joined by a staff member from the Democratic Caucus, as well as a staff member from the committee, which to me is even more important, to be quite frank, because they're the ones that do the heavy lifting to get things moving and to provide the support that every legislator needs. There was a number of references to her visit at the last week's WASDA session, annual meeting rather, of the state school directors. And I think that she is looking at our program as being really a beacon to share with other legislators on how it can be done. She also notes that it's a project in motion, and that what it is today will probably be evolving into even a better program tomorrow. And I think we all share that sentiment as well. But she was extremely complimentary. She was, to be quite frank, blown away by the kids and their performances.
Thank you, Director Stewart. I'd like to also add for this section of the agenda that the board and Superintendent Holman and Deputy Superintendent Matt Gillingham, we all participated in collective learning over the weekend at the WASDA annual conference. I believe it's the first time we've ever had our entire board and superintendent and deputy superintendent at the conference at the same time. I found it extremely beneficial. We will ask for board members if they're willing to write up summaries about some of the sessions they might have attended, because I believe we made a concerted effort to attend different sessions and gain as much learning as we could. So we will do that and hopefully add it to board docs so that people can read and benefit from our learning. Yes, Director Stewart.
We also, the board and some senior staff met with the special needs group of the PTSA and was able to share with them the presentation that we'd given the prior meeting, to be quite frank, for those that hadn't had a chance to either attend or view it, and fielded a number of questions from the group. I think it's important that we keep reaching out to this group. I really appreciate, to be quite frank, the fact that the paras step up and provide child care to enable those parents to join, because child care is difficult as it is, but to get child care for a special needs student takes a lot of effort, and those paras well, I can't say enough about Cindy Meisner. She's one of the best.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is our school visits. On November 7th, Director Stewart was able to attend the Lake Washington High School Veterans Day Assembly. There is a summary on board docs for those who are interested in reading about that school visit. Our next school visits are going to be on December 5th to McAuliffe Elementary and Inglewood Middle School. Any board members that are able to attend, please make sure you let Ms. Harding know. Yes, Director Stewart.
The Lake Washington visit and the Veterans Day Assembly was moving from a couple of aspects. Not only did we have a younger gentleman who said, basically, he said, I wasn't the ideal student. It took me a while to figure out what I wanted to be and where I wanted to go with my life. An older veteran is actually liaison to the tribal nations, and it was a unique adaptation, if you will, of a veteran, and telling how he was able to grow within his service. The program asked that as the band played the themes from each of the bands of service, that people stand if you had a member of your family in either one of those branches of service. And it was moving to see the number of kids that stood in recognition of their brothers, their sisters, their aunts, their uncles, their parents.
Thank you, Director Stewart. The next section of the agenda are our committee updates. Does anybody have an update they would like to provide? Director Pleasner.
Sure, I'll just quickly say I had the opportunity for the meeting with the strategic plan for staff. It was a great opportunity. Actually, our future director, Lindsay Yoakum, was also able to attend, so that was great to be able to have her there. And this was really looking at what is the profile of staff. And so good questions asked and really good thinking as to what, as you do that profile of a graduate in the student section, they're thinking of what is it that our staff and teachers will need going forward. So it's kind of a great conversation. So looking forward to that continuing.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will update. I attended my first high school day committee. There's actually, if you're very interested, Deputy Superintendent Scott Beebe gave a comprehensive update of kind of what has been covered in the last two meetings thus far during our study session. I'm very much looking forward to the work that's going to be done moving forward. And then, unfortunately, I only attended a small portion of the K through 8 HiCap evaluation as I got sick. But the part that I was able to attend, which was, I forget her name, someone from OSPI came and answered questions and did some they did some collective learning kind of around OSPI's definitions around special for HiCap. And so I thought that was extremely informative as well. Looking forward to kind of where we're going in both of those committees. We're really at the learning stages, I feel like, getting everybody on the same page. So looking forward to where those go. Yes, Director Stewart.
One of the upcoming committees, and I'm sorry, I'm going to blank on the name of it, actually is meeting the same night as the celebration of service for our two departing directors. And I'm wondering perhaps if the beginning of the time of the committee could perhaps be adjusted. We've got a week or so to make the adjustment. That way everyone could at least attend part of the celebration.
I think we can talk about that offline, potentially. Yeah. Okay. The board will next plan to meet on December 4th at a study session at 5 p.m. and board meeting at 7. Yes, Director LaLiberty.
Well, it's not I read this part as also asking for future agenda items.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Is that okay for me to construe it that way? Thank you. we talked about tonight, or we just approved tonight, the resolution for board compensation. I think I heard everyone on the board talking about a desire to do additional work around attracting diverse board members. And as I thought about it more, I think maybe it's even broader than that. It's, we have these standing committees now too, so I think maybe some of that work could be around not just board members, but community members participating in the policy work of the district. So anyway, a thought. So I guess I would just say, so I guess to bring this around, I think I would like to see a future agenda item for the board to discuss what policy work we are interested in initiating around attracting diverse board members. And then we can talk about how that would play out and who would if we want to do it with a committee or work on it together as a board or how that would play out. But I think that'd be nice to add to the work plan sooner than later.
Can I make a recommendation?
Absolutely.
That we start with a study session before we add it to the agenda for a board meeting?
Oh, I don't. It doesn't matter to me.
Oh,
I just want the discussion.
okay.
We can do it in study session, or we can do it on the dais.
That's great.
If I might piggyback on that, I wouldn't mind also adding the discussion on adding to diversity of staff.
Could you repeat yourself? Sorry, I missed that.
I'm sorry, to add on to Director Will Liberty's comment regarding committees as well as board, I'd like to also include in that session, whether it be study session or whatever, that we also look at opportunities and ideas for adding to the diversity of staff.
I believe coming up here in the next couple of meetings, we have a human resources program report where we could highlight it there, and if there's additional conversation or discussion required at a study session, that would be a really good springboard to that conversation. And so let me talk with Joy and team, and they usually do a good job of pulling data together for us.
The board will now meet in executive session for 30 minutes. Following the executive session, the November 20th, 2023 board meeting will be adjourned at 10:25. No formal board action will be taken this evening following the executive session. The purpose of tonight's executive session is as follows: to review the performance of an employee of the district. The board will now convene into executive session at 9:55 p.m. Thank you.